You are listening to the Choose Your Struggle podcast, a member of the Shameless Podcast Network. Welcome to the Choose Your Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Jay Shifman. On this show, I interview people with lived and learned experiences on the topics of mental health, substance misuse and recovery, and drug use and policy. But occasionally we talk about other topics as well. Today's Monday Motivation episode is a conversation with the incredible musician Ayoka. But first, Kid Mental, let's go.
Things ain't always gonna go our way, but you can always win when you choose your struggle. And some battles are for yesterday, but today is for a new beginning. Choose your struggle, and don't worry about what they say, but you can always win when you choose your struggle. And you can bounce back just as Jay. Come on and listen to Choose Your Struggle. Whoa, choose your struggle. Choose your struggle. Whoa, choose your struggle.
Hello and welcome to a really fun episode, a Monday Motivation episode of the Choose Your Struggle podcast. Today's episode is a unedited, very open conversation with the musician Ayoka. As you know, with these Monday Motivation episodes, they're meant to be a little more off-brand, but the only thing that's off-brand here is that this is a musician that, you know, is not specifically in the mental health space, but as we talk about, vulnerability is a big part of her music, and I am so thankful for Ayoka and her team for taking the time. We had a wonderful chat a couple weeks ago. We talk about this on this episode about how excited we both are about Donda, the Kanye album, which recently came out. If you're like me, you are taking a brief break from listening to that to listen to this interview. I think I'm on listen 10 or 11 in the last 5 or 6 days. Just loving it. Jail 2. Actually, this is what I'll say about this. Jail 1 and Jail 2, if Kanye had put them out on the same track as they kind of were originally, or instead of separating them into two parts, in my opinion, would be one of his greatest songs of all time, as it is. Jay-Z's verse on Jail Part 1 and DaBaby on Jail Part 2 are both just impeccable. The Locks showing up on the last song. I mean, it's a great album. It's very much another work of art reminiscent of Life of Pablo or Jesus. And I love that he is sort of going back to that. Still a lot of Jesus, which as a a secular Jew is not my favorite thing, but as my wife knows, because I play Chance and Kanye all the time, you know, good music will have me listening to praise music. So that's just the way it is. One more shout out on this. I forgot to mention this on Friday, but we do have new merch out for Choose Your Struggle. I'll talk about this more next week. But if you want to take a look at it, go into the show notes or go to my website, jshifman.com, and go to the store page. My strategist, Ryan, has been killing it with some incredible designs. So go check that out. All right, without further ado, enjoy this just incredible conversation with Ayoka. By the way, your team was super helpful.
Right.
I sent my team the emails from yours and was like, do this. Like, they were on point.
Thank you.
So I don't know how much they told you, but my podcast is called Choose Your Struggle. And it drops twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. Fridays is mostly people who work in mental health, substance misuse and recovery, and drug use and policy. Mondays are people that, quite frankly, I just find inspiring. And I think we'll have a good conversation. They're not exactly on topic, but they're close enough. And it gives us a little more leeway to be a little looser and have a little more fun, right?
Right.
So that's what we're recording today. And in preparation for this, I'll just tell you this right now. I have been doing nothing but listening to your music. And
really?
I have to tell you, the song Elevate may be my new like walk-up song when I go to play softball. Like I cannot stop listening to this song. It is so good.
Thanks. Oh my God. You'll really love the new stuff coming out then. So I'm excited about that.
When's the new stuff coming out?
So later in the fall is when we're projected to go ahead and release the full project. But I have a new fun song out named Weekend right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we'll
you
be
do.
dropping some more. Okay, so Weekend is like literally like the only fun song on that project. Well, I have one called Hotline, which is a little seedy fun, but then the rest of it's that, very great for this conversation because it was me screaming in a mic for therapy and it like worked out. So
well,
that is the rest of it.
Cannot wait to hear it then.
Thanks.
I have a playlist called A Positive Mental Health that I a lot of my listeners, I've shared with them, and I put Elevate on there because I just think it's such a soulful and vulnerable song. Would you agree?
It's so funny. Yeah, I think it is. But I will tell you something. That is probably one of my least vulnerable songs.
Wow.
That means I'm a pretty fucking vulnerable person.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I really write all of my stuff myself. And a lot of times I literally lock myself in a room. And right now I'm actually locking myself in my closet and I'm writing and recording songs. So it's like, y'all are getting like, okay, you know how I kind of feel about it? Did you know this about Johnny Depp? After he makes a movie, he does not watch it. He refuses to watch it.
I feel like a lot of people are that way, right? That they don't like to see themselves.
God. And, and a part of it is because it's so vulnerable. I think the creative process is such a vulnerable process that after you get it out, it's like you go back to being like normal, like, with your guards and everything. And you don't want to revisit that until you're like emotionally ready to remind yourself of like whatever weakness you personally can find in that vulnerability, even if it's not as apparent to like other people.
Huh. I gotta tell you, so the songwriting, I mean, it's so foreign to me. I'm not musical in that way. So I love hearing from people like you who put their heart and their soul into this about where that comes from. Because, I strive to be super vulnerable with the show, a lot of the work I do, but it's one thing to be talking. It's another thing to put that into lyrics and then belt it the way, I mean, if you listen to your songs, you don't hold back.
Thanks.
Right? I mean, there's a second layer of vulnerability there, right?
Yeah, it is. And what's so funny that you say that? That was literally my biggest hold up. Like when I first started even fucking learning how to sing, like was being vulnerable, like when my friends, so basically I actually wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to work behind the scenes. I didn't even want to sing. Like that was because I didn't think I could. Like I always had notions that I could, like my piano instructor in elementary school, sixth grade, he was like, he said, sing this, and I try to do it. He said, if you want, I could teach you how to sing. Like we could work on your voice and we could develop it. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. I was like, he's crazy. Bye. And then it happened again. So very funny story. And if I ever win anything for my music career, I swear to God, this is going to be one of the first people I think is there is a guy named Norman Hertz Keys. And he was actually, I believe he was a piano player for Erykah Badu. He toured with her.
Wow.
And I believe he was somehow involved in writing Tyrone.
Wow.
With her.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. Pretty fucking major. Well, back in the day when I was still like Christian or whatever, like not, that was just, I feel like we all go through our different phases with things like that. So, that was my phase of religion. And basically, he told me, he was like, you have a soloist voice, because I had just learned how to sing like background and from an amazing lady. But I was like, I don't think so. And I was like, he was like, I want you to sing this solo. And I was like, I'm not ready. And so then he put me out there and we practiced it. And he was like, all right, we're going to sing your song. And I was like, fuck. And so I get up there. I was so nervous that I was in a completely different key. The audience looked scared. And I was like, God, I was like, I knew I wasn't ready, but I doubted myself. But it was because I knew I struggled with opening up to like get the delivery necessary. And then with the added pressure of like doing it in front of like, I don't know, 200 people, it was too much. But then it got better. I sang the national anthem for my job at the time. I worked at Capital One, and they actually started applauding in the middle of me singing it.
Wow.
And then once I was done singing it, they all gave me a standing ovation in the auditorium. And I was so nervous. I just literally walked out of the auditorium, and I still had the mic in my hand. So, you know, it was a journey to get here, and really be able to give that emotion. But I'm glad you could hear it, because fuck, it's been a long road, and I feel like it just gets even more intense. So it's like, I'm so happy that I was able to finally like accomplish that.
Well, you are starting to get some buzz. I mean, you came across my phone, obviously, and I've been, like I said, binging your music. But let's go back real quick. And where are you born and raised? You said you know, did you learn to sing in the church? I mean, was that a big part of it? Like, tell us a little bit more about the background, and then also where'd the name come from?
Okay, yeah. So I was born and raised in the DMV area. So I'm from Maryland. And so I grew up there partially, and then I moved to Virginia, 757. And so that's where I'm like born and raised. And I didn't really have either one of my parents. I'm kind of like a orphan, like a loose orphan. Because I've literally never lived more than 5 years of like consecutive years with either one of my parents. So, I mean, yeah, so that's like an interesting thing. So that's why it's like, you know, I don't really talk too much about like where I'm from, because it was kind of like, I don't have like a solid home base fully, because I didn't have like, you know, like my parents. But so basically the way I got into singing, it was kind of through the church, because I mean, I was in like church choir and stuff when I was younger, and I loved it. But I just never thought it was like for me. So I really got more into instruments. So I learned how to play a few instruments and things like that. And then I expanded my skills more in church. But because I went to school, I was, you know, so I did go to a HBCU or whatever. I went to Norfolk State,
Nice.
Which is in Virginia. And so I actually went into music education there, because I just was like, I want to do it. And so then I was like, I think I could do it. I tried out for the choir, and he just said to me, he said, you can either be a soprano 1 or you could be an alto 2. What do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I didn't even know I could sing. I didn't even know I was going to pass. So I was like, okay, I'll choose soprano 2. And so that was like fucking history. I feel like being in choir really changed my life. I connected with some good friends there. And, you know, we did end up singing more in church. I got on like a praise team. And so that really like set the base. But I do have classical training because of my schooling, you know, at Norfolk State or whatever. And so, after that, after school, I, you know, continued my training, my vocal training. And Karen Nimarella, if you guys need to learn how to sing, go to that lady. Because I tell you, like, she was like the final, like that was like the final boss that like leveled my voice up. Because she said, do you even know how you're doing what you're doing? And I said, no. She said, she's amazing, and she doesn't even know how she's doing it. So she really like gave me discipline to it, and she explained it, you know, just like the power that I do hold. I'm a coloratura soprano. So that's like pretty fucking major in the sense of the types of sopranos. So, you know, the song, The Magic Flute, Queen of the Night?
Sure.
I can sing that. So I went from not knowing how to sing at all to being able to, you know, be the goddamn queen of the night. So it was kind of a crazy journey here. Yeah. So that explains, I guess, that background a little bit.
And when did you go full time? Like, I'm gonna do this, and then, you know, again, like, help us understand the name, which I think is cool, and the image, because like, if you go on for the listeners, and I'm gonna put the link in the show notes, obviously, but if you go on your Spotify, tell me about this picture. What's going on here?
Okay, all right. So basically, all right, wait, which picture? Are we talking about the pink one?
You look like a queen. You are dressed like a queen.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically, all right. So remember I told you I went through that whole religious phase. That's why I call it a phase. So I'm obviously not religious. There's nothing that says Puritan about me right now. So I would say the way I even got there. Hold on, wait. What was the first question again?
Where'd the name come from?
Back. The name. Okay, so basically, oh yeah, and then you asked when did I decide to go full time with this?
Right.
So okay. That was kind of an uphill stop and go journey for me. I did start, right after school. I was really into playing my guitar, my acoustic, and I was writing songs on it. I started working with a producer, and it was all right. But then kind of the shit that happens in the industry, he liked me and I didn't like him, so then he didn't want to work with me, and I'm like, whatever. And so then I just put that on pause. I started my spiritual business. Actually, along my way, I did just feel like for me, and this is just for me, I felt like there were just too many inconsistencies in the politics of the church and how all of that works. I felt like it was impossible rules, impossible standards. Literally no one could meet up to the rules that were given to be a good Christian, not even the pastor. So it's like, we have backsliding and, you feel like shit, and then you try to do it all over again. You feel like shit again. And I just really felt like there wasn't enough evolution for me as a person. I was like, well, what's next? Like, how do I move to the next level? Everything is in seasons. Everything goes through evolution. And I really felt like I was not personally evolving in that space. So I actually found this lady who was an energy worker and an energy healer. And it fucking blew my mind. I did a session with her. She wouldn't explain what she did fully because it's just her personality. But I met her in Best Buy. I was actually working there part-time. Yeah, it was real weird because so my best friend at the time, he basically begged me to work at Best Buy with him as part-time. We were still in college because he didn't want to be bored. And so then I met the lady who changed my life. I was trying to put her screen protector on, and we got into astrology. I was into astrology, and one thing led to another. And I found out past lives were pretty real for me. She did some energy work on me. It felt like my lymph nodes were swelling up in my throat. I started panicking. And then I was like, something's happening to my throat. I feel like I can't breathe. And then she was like, oh, and she snapped her fingers and blew a little bit. She was like, that's just your past life when you were working in a terminal illness ward. And here, you can just clear that karma right on out. And literally, as soon as she snapped her freaking fingers, it went away. It was not a placebo because she didn't say, hey, you're going to feel this, And she didn't say, hey, I'm going to get rid of this feeling. It was it happened. And oh my God, that changed everything for me. So much pressure was taken off of me because I was like, wow, if I do not get everything right in this, projected 60, 70 years, 80, hopefully 90 years of my life, I won't have to burn for eternity because I fucked up one time, it's kind of a crazy standard to think, whatever. But anyway, so I get into all of this, right? And so then I start my spiritual business because I end up learning. I'm a Reiki master. I'm also a teacher, a practitioner, and I'm also a shaman. So I'm a Native American shaman. This all ties into the name as well. So I come from a line of medicine women. We are Sioux Cherokee. And so I come from a line, and also Blackfoot. So I come from a line of medicine women. And so that gifting has always been innate for me, but I really got more into it once I got into healing. And then I chose the name Ayoka because in the Cherokee language and also in the Yoruba language, there's a crossover there. It means she brought happiness. And so with my job of being a healer, one of my largest priorities, even growing up, was to create happiness and so that people wouldn't have to feel the way I did. Cause being abandoned by your parents, being an orphan, not ever feeling like you have support or hope, like you have to create that for yourself. I wanted to help create that for other people. And so that's where the name actually comes from. It comes from my healing journey.
Very cool. I appreciate how much thought and love you've put into this. So before we kind of talk about what's coming down the line, a couple of rapid fire, I guess, music questions as a lover to someone who creates beautiful music.
Thanks.
Who is your number one musical influence?
Oh my God. Oh, wow. That's a hard question. I would say probably one of my biggest influences would be Maxwell.
Wow. Okay.
And I say Maxwell because of his writing style. I was doubting myself and I was thinking, can I make music that's good enough all by myself? Like, do I have it like in me? Cause and so I went and I was looking at people's writing and the writer's credits, and literally Maxwell, literally only uses one other person in most cases to help write his music. And I love that. I love how potent and simplistic his lyrics are, but they hold so much depth and meaning. I feel like he chooses keys in music that reflect the emotion that he's trying to project as well. So I grew up listening to a lot of his music, expressing a lot, feeling a lot, and honestly, even understanding a lot about love and like emotional dynamics through his writing and his style of writing and delivery.
Wow, that was a beautiful answer. So then, all right. Other than him, who is your dream collaboration?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right, I'm coming in hot.
I know. I'm like, okay. I have to think like, if I got this collaboration, I think I would die. So who would that be? That's a tough one. All right, can I choose two?
Please.
Okay. All right. So this one may be controversial because I know he's not everybody's favorite, but Kanye.
I love Kanye. I can't wait for Donda.
Me either. I mean, if we want to see fucking like modern day musical genius, it's going to be Kanye. Yeah. Creative genius all the way. I fucking get it. Like oh my God, even, my favorite project from him would even have to be what was the project? I see the imagery. Was it Ye? It was Ye. Yeah. Ye is one of my favorite projects. I really love Yeezus. Don't get me wrong. But Ye literally just, oh my God, it shows his state, like his mental state. That was a vulnerable project to me. It's very avant-garde and abstract and just fucking genius, in my opinion.
Both Yeezus and Ye are interesting. I would say pound for pound, it's hard pressed to find a better album than my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I just think, I have to give you validity there. Like I have to like make room for that because really, he just outdoes himself. Just top to bottom, just an incredible album. It's so hard. Yeah. It's so hard to pick a favorite project because they all come from a different space. Yes, very true.
Every single one. I love that. Okay, so him and honestly, I guess that Kanye is the answer. I feel like that he's the answer. Never mind.
All right. Well, you're going to share this interview with him, and then that'll make it happen, and then you're going to thank me on the liner notes of the record. That's how that's going to work. All right, next one. So a little different take on a classic question. Not if you only had one album, but if you only had one artist that you could listen the rest of your life, sort of desert island thing. Who is the one artist that you think you would never get bored of that you would take?
Michelle Ngiatello.
I don't know who that is. I'm fascinated already.
Wow, you've never heard of Michelle. Okay, so you know the song. It's one of her most favorite songs is the "You Made a Fool of Me."
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, her. So her album, there's two albums that I just literally almost listen to almost every single day. It's going to be her album Comfort Woman and her album Bitter. They are both just amazing. She just like soothes my soul. I have found so much of like my emotional maturity as a woman in those two albums.
Wow. All right. I have not given her enough time then. I'm going to have to go back and
oh God, she's amazing. Seriously. My goodness. Also, one thing about her, on her album Bitter, I believe she played every single instrument almost. Every single fucking instrument. Yes.
All right. Last one of these rapid fire. Who have you seen live the most?
Okay. This is a confession. I don't go and see people live a lot.
Wow.
So if we have to call it the most, I feel like it would be B2K because that may have been. I've seen B2K and I've seen Drake live. I've literally only seen these two people live because both times my friends was like, hey, come to this concert with me.
I understand. I've seen Chingy 3 times live, so I'm not one to judge whatsoever. And one of those was right when he dropped, the Holiday Inn and all that. It was like one of his first shows. So
were you doing the chicken head at the show?
This was back. I was in 11th grade. I went wild for Chingy. I'm not ashamed to admit. So
I'm like literally, I'm such an introvert. I don't like.
That's funny you say that, because I'm not getting that whatsoever on this. You are being very open, and I appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right, so you mentioned earlier you've got new music on the way. Tell us about the recording process. How's that going?
Okay, so it's almost done. And so my recording process, most of my songs start off as freestyles. Most of them, some of them are complete freestyle, especially on this new the project that's coming out. So I do, so my work ethic is, I guess, is a little more, I don't know, I don't know, what is the word? Strict. I didn't realize I was so strict with my work ethic. So basically what I do home recordings where I literally get everything the way I would want it to be when it releases. So I'm talking about the harmonies, the structure, the arrangement, everything, the levels. I even mix my own shit at home.
Wow.
And then I only go to the studio to create, to record the final project. So I don't like wasting time. I don't want to be there doing nothing. When I go in there, I go in. Me and my engineer have a great time. We get high, and then I go out. But we get a lot of shit done. And so the entire recording process happens in my own little cave until I'm ready to go and record the final process.
I honor that. I think that's awesome. I as someone who controls mine from top to bottom, I get it. That is your
yeah.
So are you saying that the song Weekend is a freestyle? Because I thought when I was listening to this sounds like someone who's just vibing.
Yes. So a big part of Weekend was just a freestyle because, all right, so Chief, I love Chief Keef. Okay. Finito is one of my favorite tracks, and then Don't Like is like a very close second. Okay. So it's like, I was like, wow, I want to make a song that makes people feel similar to how I feel when I hear Finito. Like, I mean, I want to just feel like, I want people to just feel arrogant and just hyped and like they just can go and like, fucking like rule the world on the weekend, like I want everything to be thrown out the window, any type of reservation, like, and that's why I did that. And so for the most part, it was mostly freestyle, especially like, it was like, so I actually had to have a couple of drinks to write the Weekend because I was like, all right, like I can't be acting too crazy, but I was like, but I can act crazy when I have a little Tito's. So I basically went in, I was like, what's the shittiest thing I could say? That's kind of how I made the Weekend.
So last question before I want to give you some time to shout out where people can find you and all that. But what is it like, you've worked hard to get to where you are and you're finally getting the success. Is it resonating with you, or are you still kind of like, this isn't real for me yet?
Oh my God, I've totally had multiple moments like this. I was like, am I just in some episode of Psychosis where I'm imagining all of this stuff? And it's like, I'm like just wasting my money. But no, it's crazy. It's starting to slowly sink in for me because I don't think one thing people probably don't understand is the fucking like the magnanimity of the investment you have to put into a music career before you see any results. It's kind of like you really have to go all in from the beginning. And so you're going to lose a lot of money, a lot of sleep, a lot of everything, just hoping that it fucking works. You can't make people like your stuff, So, I mean, now that I'm finally starting to see more feedback on it, and it's cool, but I don't think it still hasn't really hit me that people like it to the depth that they do. Like I read some of these literal critics just praising my shit up and down. And I'm like, whoa, like that's crazy, Well,
I can't imagine. I think that it would be all very surreal. And I appreciate you taking this time. It's been so fascinating to learn about you and your work. Where people who are vibing off this, obviously, like I said, I'll put the link in the show notes to your Spotify, but where else can people check you out? What else do you want people to know?
Okay, so you guys can check me out on Instagram at Ayoka Music and on Twitter __Ayoka __. The name was taken. I know, guys. Sorry. And I think the only thing is like, just stay tuned. Like I have more shit coming. If you love the first project, you're definitely going to love the second one. You're definitely going to get more vocals and more range and more power. So...
Well, I cannot wait. I'll have to stay tuned on Instagram for that release date. And once again, Ayoka, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Bye.